Season 2. So, my guest today really needs no introduction. Rapper, singer, songwriter, creator, MC Magic. Say hello.
Hello, Nick and Nicole. Thank you for inviting me to hang out with you today, and I hope you're doing wonderful.
I am. It's so good to have you on. So, I wanted to talk to you. How in the world did you just have this in your bones where you just wanted to do music and you've been so persistent for so many years and all your songs have been pretty timeless? I see all generations singing your music. How did you get started?
You know, I knew music was going to be an important part of my life really young. And so my first reach at music was to DJ. So I started DJing quinceañeras, house parties, dances. I even joined some DJ competitions way back in the day and won. And so, yeah, I DJed for several years. And then there came a path when I started songwriting, but I wasn't done DJing. So I had my DJ and the songwriter musician, they kind of crossed paths later when I got so busy as a musician, as an artist. I just gave up DJing. And I remember I told my wife, I says, I'm not going to DJ anymore. This is going to be my last weekend that I go out. And back then, that was a long time ago, but I was still making like $1,200 a night to go
Wow.
DJ. And she's like, where are you going to get that extra money? And
Yeah.
I'm like, we'll find a way. We'll find a way. So I could focus more on just making songs, focusing on the recording industry. It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, and it was harder back in the day because imagine no YouTube, no internet, no
Yeah,
social media.
definitely.
So it was a lot harder
Definitely.
when I did it. But the fact that it's easier to get out now also floods the market. So I can understand how tough it can be for a new artist today because there's so much out there.
How old were you when you started DJing?
I was probably 14, 13, around there.
Wow. So who were your influences musically?
I think my love song heart came from the Latino side of me, my Mexican mom, my tias. Like every Mexican family has tias that stay over for weeks at a time. They'd be washing the dishes. They'd be playing Marco Antonio
Mm,
Solis. They'd be playing stuff that Los Yonix, and all that love was just being embedded in my heart. I was probably playing as a kid around the house, but I remember these songs. Singing King Clave,
yeah.
singing Los Terrícolas, and all those early and mid 70s songs, they kind of just got stuck in my heart. And so love songs just became my thing. And then when I started going to school and speaking more English, because my first language is Spanish,
Hmm.
when I went to school and started speaking more English, then I discovered other artists like oldies and One Way, Zap,
Yeah.
Confunction, Planet Rock, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I became a person of a duolingo.
Hmm.
And I always felt it necessary. I didn't need consciously do it. It just happened to put Mexican words in English songs like, the love we shared, something so especial, estar
Hmm.
contigo. And so, and I think my demographic of people really connected with it. And the fact that it was genuine, not a reach,
Hmm.
I think that's really what helped it stay with people in their heart.
So, did you always know that you were going to go into music, or did you have other plans for your life?
Yeah, music was it. I definitely
Really?
didn't. No, yeah, there was no plan B. And I think all successful people are like that. They're so relentless. If they're so
Very.
relentless at what they do that there's no way I'm not going to do this. That's the attitudes one
Right.
has to have to be a great musician, a great painter, a great basketball player. If you go to relentless.com, the guy who owns relentless.com, that was his motto. And it was very tough to start his company. He got his company going. He got several investors, And relentless.com is actually the original name of amazon.com. That's Jeff Bezos.
Interesting. And that's true. That's very true. I feel like when you're relentless, I mean, there's no way you almost can't make it, right? Because you're just so persistent.
Right.
So, um, when you started DJing, were there DJ influences that you looked up to?
Let me see. I remember there was DJ battles back then.
Yes.
And when you say DJ, the word is pretty vague because there's radio personalities that are DJs, and then there's chick 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 chick
Yeah,
chick chick
there's vinyl DJs. Yeah.
the battle DJs,
Mm-hmm.
and I love like Art LeBeau. He's an amazing DJ.
Mm-hmm.
I like Delilah. She's an amazing DJ. But the main DJ, I'm gonna give credit to a radio DJ that captured my heart with his dedications and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Casey Kasem.
Oh, I know who that is. Yes.
You know who Casey Kasem is?
Yes. You
Yeah.
know how I know who that is, though? Because I used to watch Saved by the Bell when I was a kid, and I remember he did like a guest appearance on the show, and I started looking
Yes.
him up a long time ago. But yes, I know who that is.
Well, he's also the voice of Shaggy on Scooby Doo.
Yes, yes, he is. Yes, I saw
Yeah,
that.
but his love song dedications and his American Top 40 show,
Hmm.
man, I every week that's what I look forward to listening to the countdown of the 40 greatest hits in the world
Yes.
from Stockholm too. Is I mean, I get chills just thinking about it, to be honest.
So after you DJ'd, and then you got into music, was Nasty Boy Click something you went right into, or how did that happen? Or you went solo first, or how?
I started solo, and when I started solo, we were just trying to get singles out. So I had the song called Just a Groove. I had There's Something. Then I did Lost in Love. And then I did Summertime. And then like later, a few years later, I decided, oh, I have these 4 songs already started. Let me just start working on my album. So in 1995, I finally completed my first solo album, and it had Lost in Love. It had Don't Worry. Don't Worry was the title track of the album,
Hmm.
coming after PHX. And so it wasn't in my mind to create NastyBoy Klick. What I did have in mind was to create a label. So I created my own label, NastyBoy Records. And the
Hmm.
reason I did that was because I sent demos out. I called record companies. I talked to people, and nobody was interested in signing this little Mexican kid from Arizona. So I was like, I guess I got to create my own record company. And so that's what I did. I did some research on how to start a label and what to do. I read a book called For the Record, and
Really?
yeah, and so it advised me to start my own record company and just to go independent and see where it leads. And that's what I did. I started Nasty Boy Records in 1990, 5 years before I dropped my album.
Wow. So when you sent your demos to other labels, was the rejection, did it shake you a little bit? Did you think about quitting, or
I never thought about quitting. My mind was always, they just don't get it. They don't get me. They don't understand me. They don't understand my people. And I think even today, they don't understand my people.
I think you're right.
But I was relentless.
Yeah, there you go.
I just wanted to make my music. And I also wasn't interested in copying anyone either. I wanted to create a sound that was me. That was me.
Yes.
I remember back then people say, well, if you do a song with Too Short, he's really popular. Pay Too Short and that'll make you famous. And I remember thinking, well, I don't want people to like me because I'm on a record with Too Short. I want
Too
people to
short,
like me.
yeah.
I want people to like me because I made a good song.
Yeah.
And so I wanted
See.
to earn it. I wanted to earn it the right way. It's always been about the music.
So, Nasty Boy Click. How did you get all the members that you got in the beginning? Because in the beginning there was quite a few, wasn't there?
Yes, there was quite a
Okay.
few, and the reason there was quite a few was because back then I was working at the swap meet, and one
Hmm.
of the kids that worked for me at the swap meet when I was recording custom songs for people, his name is Aaron. We called him Sly. So
Hmm.
Sly was 12 years old when he started working for me. And by the time I was ready to record the first single for Nasty Boy Klick, Sly was 16. So that's 4 years. I'd already known him for 4 years. And he
Mhm.
would always tell me, just give me a chance, give me a chance. Whatever you got a chance, give me a chance to write a verse. I'll do it. I'll do it.
Mhm.
And I remember, he stayed in the back of my mind. But I was working with another guy from Glendale, with Daniel, and Daniel, he wanted to make a song similar to Lost in Love. I was like, all right, well, how about this? Down for yours, if you down for mine.
Mhm.
And I remember we sampled his voice saying, down for yours, if you down for mine. And I kept that. He left, but then I kept working on the song, just using his
Mm.
voice. And then we wrote the I'm down for yours if you're down with my flow. We did the whole thing, and then I called him back, and he did his verse. And I was like, "What do you want to do next?" Because he had hired me to do a song for him. This was not planned to be Nasty Boy Click yet. It was just I
Oh,
was
okay.
I was being hired to produce a song for him.
Mhm.
And he goes, "Man, why don't you do a verse on it?" So then the second verse is me. What does the second verse go? Now all I need is a shorty with a Mac like that, Victoria's Secret champagne and bubble bath.
Mhm.
Let the magic man rub you down like a magic lamp. So then it was weird on this record for Daniel, down for yours, and there was a third verse available, and I thought, how about that kid from the swap meet? So I called Sly and I showed it to him over the phone. He's like, yeah, come and pick me up. Come and pick me up. Let's go to the studio. He was
Yeah.
so amped. On his way to the studio, he wrote, what you want, Goldilocks? Money can't buy. Manda Vox can't buy. And so he wrote that, and it was so good that, he became part of the record. And,
Mm.
uh, and so then I was working, aside from working on that song for Daniel, I was working on my second album. And the first single that I recorded for my second album was AZ Side. I had worked with this another kid named Ziggy. And so Ziggy wrote, take a little trip with me, take a little trip. And so that was AZ Side. That record was done, and it was for my sophomore album. That's why my verse starts, album number 2, just to clock respect,
Mhm.
and so we were working on my second album, and then I thought I might as well just take these songs and put them all on one album. But then
Yeah.
I thought, since I'm working with Sly, I'm working with Daniel, I'm working with Ziggy, this is really not an MC Magic project. That's what I thought in my mind,
Yeah.
which really it was. But I thought I'll just make a compilation, because
Ah, okay.
I was also working on different records with the black kid named Buki. I remember I used to pick up Buki from high school at North High School, bring him to my studio, and we recorded a couple songs, and I used those for the Nasty Boy Click album. So then
Oh,
I made
okay.
everybody who I was working with, I called them Nasty Boy Click, the click that works with Nasty Boy Records.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
So in my thoughts, and if you look at the original album, very lightly it says MC Magic presents Nasty Boy Click, but everyone ignored the MC Magic presents, and that new group Nasty Boy Click is fire. And so because I was able to get the main single played at radio, because I was able to get it played at radio, it became so popular in Phoenix. And before you know it, meant everybody, even the major labels that would never pick up a phone call from me, they were dialing me, yo, we want to sign Nasty Boy Click. And it was just a firestorm. And then so I
Yeah.
hurried up and finished the album. And matter of fact, before I released it, I had the hunch that it was going to be good. So I finished the album with songs that I had laying around, or other songs that I just invited them to go ahead and get on. So that's how Nasty Boy Click came to be.
Okay, because yeah, I know everyone thought it was just like a group, like a small group that,
And we
that
became that.
yeah.
We evolved into that. And then not only that, is when we took pictures as a group, I also had DJ Too Swift in there, Daniel, Ziggy, Buki. I put my son Marco in it. Marco was 11 years
Wow.
old. Marco, and then we took our dancers and put them in the hockey jerseys too. So I had Coco. It seemed like we were an army, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Almost
We
like
were
no
like,
limit.
right, we were like the Wu-Tang Clan, you know?
Yeah. And I remember when all that came out, y'all came out with Perfect Man with Angelina.
Now
Um,
that was later on the second Nasty Boy
oh, okay,
Click
okay,
album. Yeah.
okay. But y'all
Yeah.
had Angelina on some vocals a few times, right?
Yes, and the reason that Angelina became involved with us, because after the first album, the original Down for Yours which was called the first chapter. It was called
Mhm.
NastyBoy Klick, the first chapter. Well, we signed with Mercury Records, and fortunately, I had a smart lawyer working for me on that paperwork, and
Mhm.
she put a clause in the contract that if Mercury did not exercise their second option and give us another $200,000, then we wouldn't do a second album, and we were free to walk with ownership of the name Nasty Boy Klick. So Connie
Wow.
was amazing. Connie was an amazing lawyer that figured I didn't even know to fight for that, but she fought
Mm,
for that for me.
wow, that's
And
awesome.
and so because Nasty Boy Klick did not perform as powerful as a major label wants their artists to perform, they didn't exercise their second option. So for the second album, um, we had broke up as a group. I went back to working at a studio, and then I remember one day the radio station said, "Magic, do you have any more songs like Down for Yours? Because Down for Yours was such a big hit." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, there's a song on my first album. It's called Lost in Love. Maybe you'll like that one." And so when Rick at 1039 The Party started playing Lost in Love, boom, it exploded. And so this other label that Angelina's on
Mhm.
from San Jose, California, Upstairs Records, they heard about Lost in Love through radio people. Through
Mhm.
radio, like radio was like, "Oh, these guys are out here with this Lost in Love record. It's crazy." And really, it was a record from my solo album. And
Yeah.
so when Upstairs Records called me, they said, "Yo, we heard that record from Nasty Boy Klick, that Lost in Love." I go, "That's actually an MC Magic song." And he's like, "Yeah, but can we just call it Nasty Boy Klick?" And I was like,
Um,
"I guess. I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's the same thing." And so, yeah, no changes to it. Didn't put any of the other guys on it. And the girl and a lot of people think that Angelina sang "Lost in Love," but she
oh
didn't.
no, that doesn't sound like her. No. Yeah.
Yeah, those vocals are Tracy Salaya, which were done back in 1990, 92.
So
Um,
what year did you write that song?
"Lost in Love" was written on New Year's Eve, like in 1990.
Wow. So it
Mm-hmm.
took that many years for and then
Yeah,
yeah.
Relentless. Oh, so when Upstairs Records released it, that's when most of the world discovered it.
Okay.
Even though it was a 4 or 5 year old song already.
Mhm.
And then they discovered it as Nasty Boy Klick because that's how Upstairs Records wanted to release it.
Mm.
And so we signed a contract with them. And by this time, I didn't have Connie look at my paperwork, so Upstairs Records was able to take advantage of us.
Mm.
Uh, and so we signed with Upstairs Records, and so we got back together. I called the guys, like, "Hey, we got another opportunity." And so by this time, we no longer had Buki. Buki didn't want to be part of a Mexican group. He was a little negrito rapper, and I'm sure his
Yeah.
family and his homies were like, "Yo, what you gonna be rapping with the essays, bro?" I'm sure
Yeah.
that's something like that happened. So Buki didn't want to be a part of it. So
Mhm.
that's why he wasn't part of the Second Coming. That was our second album. It was
Mm.
just not this time. I narrowed it down to four of us. My son was no longer in the group. It was just Magic, Daniel, Ziggy, and Sly, the kid from the swap meet.
Mm.
So now we were just down to four. Too Swift, the DJ, he no longer was with us anymore because he got mad at me. From the
Mm.
first album, he got mad because when we went on a promo tour, the major label said, "Look, we're gonna do a promo tour. You're gonna visit radio stations, magazines, record stores, all that kind of stuff." And I'm
Mm.
like, "Yeah, well, here's the names of everybody that's going." And they're like, "Well, here you go. Four of you guys can go. Your manager can't go. Your DJ can't go. It's a promo tour. We don't have the budget to do all that." And
Yeah.
so I told Too Swift, I go, "Hey, well, the label said they're paying for everything, that only four of us can go." And he got
Mm.
pissed. He got
Ah.
pissed. He's like, "Oh, you did me wrong. You got like you left me behind," type thing, you know?
Mhm.
And so then because he was mad at me, then he didn't work with us on our second album.
Wow.
That's when I wrote Perfect Man. And the original version of Perfect Man was real pretty acoustic guitar. And
Oh,
then
okay.
and then Upstairs Records, they wanted to add Angelina because she's not the original singer of that either.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, I had this girl named Monique sing that. And so they had Angelina sing it because it was good promotion for their artist Angelina that
Yeah.
hadn't had a hit in a while.
Yeah.
And so it brought her back to, the front.
Mhm.
And so, they knew what they were doing. And I was like, yeah, that's fine if she sings because it did sound good. And then they also made a more upbeat version of it with one of their producers, Noel from the Houseaholics, and that's the one that went to radio. People love Perfect Man. It's just
Yeah,
such a good song.
it got heavy airplay here in San Antonio, Texas. I remember that song on quite a bit on the radio and Lost in
Yeah,
Love as well.
yeah. And one of the reasons San Antonio was big, well, the whole state of Texas was big for us, is because the owner of Upstairs Records, his compadre, named Pete Manriquez, was the program director out in Texas. So he was kind of doing his
Mm,
homeboy a favor. In the process, we got the benefit of the publicity, and the song became a
yeah,
hit.
that makes sense. That makes sense because
Yeah,
I
and that
remember those songs being played.
and the girls loved it. The
Oh
girls, I mean,
yeah, of course.
the young chicanitas were like, "Whoa, what is this? I'm in love."
That was me. For sure. I remember I would also hear a lot of your music on it was a station called Pocos Pero Locos. Have you heard of it?
Of course, yeah. The
Yeah.
founders of Pocos Pero Locos are from Los Angeles, and it
Yes.
started out as a Sunday night specialty show
Yes.
focusing on Chicano
Yes.
and Latin rap is what they called it back then.
Yeah, and that's actually the first time I heard like Gemini and those other artists as well.
Hmm.
So, take me from Nasty Boy Click to NB Riders. How did NB Riders come out?
Okay, so I got mad at Upstairs Records because I felt like they were selling records, they were doing good, but they weren't paying us anything. They
Uh,
weren't paying us. They're like, no, you guys make money when you do shows. That's how artists make money. And I was like, I'm writing these songs, I'm recording these songs, I'm editing these songs, I'm mixing, I'm doing all the work, and they're keeping all the money. That doesn't make sense.
yeah.
So I was just worried about me at the time. So I went to John at Upstairs Records, and I says, John, I don't want to be part of this label no more. I need you to please release me. He says, yeah, Magic. He goes, I'll definitely let you leave. He says, but I own the name now. I own
Oh,
Nasty Boy
wow.
Klick. And so, and my attitude, I'm like, fuck it, keep the name. I don't care.
Yeah.
And, and me and the guys were already having disagreements and problems by then anyway. And I was like, yeah, the guys can stay over there. I'm just going to go back to being MC Magic. Well, I didn't go back to being MC Magic because the buzz of the Nasty Boy Klick thing was still heavy. It was the
Yeah.
most popular. It was the most popular Chicano music out, and I said I'll just change it from MBK to NB Ridaz. So that's the new name that I started going with. And for the original NB Ridaz album, I brought my son Marco back in. By this
Oh,
time,
okay.
Marco was probably 14, and then my nephew D Dog. And so they were called M1 and D Dog, and they were part of NB Ridaz. So when Daniel came over, even though he was still with that record company, he still lived in Arizona. So he would
Oh,
he would
okay.
say, "What are you working on now that you're not with the label no more?"
Mhm.
And so I showed him, and I was working on this song called "Runaway." That
Yes.
I actually wrote "Runaway" um, for Angelina. I wrote it for Angelina, but they didn't like it.
Really?
They didn't like it. The Upstairs Records didn't like it, and so I kept it. And when I kept playing it, I thought to myself, "Dang it!" But it's got Angelina on it. Those guys will probably never let me release it. So I said to myself, I thought I was going to outsmart them. I said, I'll just say somebody else sang it. And so I put another girl's name on the credits. I did in Relentless.
Yeah, definitely.
So they had forgot about the record. But by this time, I had already built relationships with people at radio, so I could take
Mhm.
it directly to radio, not give it to Upstairs and have them deliver it to radio. People already knew that Magic was doing all the work,
Yeah.
and so when I dropped the first NB Riders single, it wasn't an album yet; it was just a single. I paid Daniel to do a verse on it, and I paid Zigzag. And when they signed their paperwork, the label, even though they were on that label, they like sold me a verse.
Oh, okay.
So it was still all of
So they
us.
got paid and yeah.
So they were still all of us. And so I released We Can Run Away and Spend Some
Mhm.
Time. I'll always be the one right by your side. And the only technicality was that I used Angelina without permission.
Okay,
But the
okay.
song was so good, I didn't want to change it. You know,
Yeah.
it's really, it's a rock and a hard spot. And so John called me from the label. He goes, Magic, man, this new record you have is so dope. He goes, that sounds like Angelina on there. I said, it's not her.
Oh.
And he's like, listen, we don't want problems, Magic. What is it going to take to bring you back to the label?
Oh, wow, so they wanted you back.
He then wanted me back. And again, we just had that Runaway song. And I'm like, I don't know, John. I'm not sure if I want to do that because, you know, it ended up bad before. And he's like, name
Yeah.
your price. He's like, name your price. I said, if you give me 200 grand, I'll come back. I just threw a number out there.
Yeah.
He's like, no problem. Let's do it.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I just didn't believe it. But so he did. And he said, you just got to give me 4 months to pay it to you. You got to, he said, I'll give you 50 and 50 and 50 and 50. And I was like, I mean, I'm still going to get the 200 grand. So
Yeah.
I, so then I said, okay, let me get started. He goes, but I want a full album. He says, this Runaway is good, but I want a full album. And so we went to work on the Invasion album. And
Yeah.
since I was back with Upstairs Records, then we were free to work together as NB Riders now. And then I told John, I says, John, the next time we fall out, you don't own the name anymore. NB Riders is mine now. He's like, so you don't want to call it NastyBoy Klick? I go, no, we're now NB Riders. He's
Hmm.
like, because he owned that NastyBoy Klick. I didn't want to, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. We made a handshake on it. He's like, yeah, you got it, Magic. It's yours. It's your name. And
Wow.
so and so we did it. We did it. I mean, I remember he came to Phoenix. We went to eat at Lenny's Burgers. And that's where we made the deal. We made a handshake deal on Invasion. That was the next album. So then I got in the studio and hammered out another album, you know, with the guys.
Wow. So from there, was y'all's relationship a little rocky and then eventually you went
Yeah,
solo? How did you end up going
yeah.
solo?
The relationship with the group was in the studio. It was never a problem because the
Okay.
creative process was easy. As a matter of
Hmm.
fact, I did all the work, and all they had to do was come in, listen to the song, and write a verse. Then they could leave
Hmm.
because I did everything. You know, it's like
Hmm.
come in, write your verse, and let me see what I'm gonna do with it. So I
Yeah.
would stay up until 2 in the morning, tweaking all the buttons and adding things that I thought should be added, mixing and mastering. It's a lot of stuff going on into a song.
Of
But
course.
but also I was doing that because I was a control freak. You know, that's my sound that I was putting out there.
Yeah.
You know, and those guys, Zig and those, they come from a group called Only the Blunted, and they were like street rappers.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they told me, yo, we can't just do love songs, man. We got to do some hard shit for the homies. And I'm like, I don't think so, you know. And so
Hmm.
that was one of the differences that we had, but it wasn't like we fought about it.
Yeah.
The reason they were getting upset with me is because they would go home, and this is what I imagine. They would go home and their family would tell them, yo man, why you guys let Magic do all the calls? Why don't you guys, you know, you guys are a group, all should have say so. And then you all
Hmm.
should get paid equally too, because I had a deal with them that I would keep 50% and I would
Yeah.
take 25 and 25 and give it to Zig and Dos. By Invasion,
Yeah.
I had already cut out Aaron Sly because Sly was a problem. His ego got so big.
Hmm.
And one time before when you started recording in Invasion for NB Riders, he got in an argument with me backstage in Albuquerque, and he said to me,
Uh,
he goes, I don't want to do just these fucking love songs. He goes, I want to do something hard. Look at all the dudes out there; they're gonna think we're pussies. And I'm like, we're
mm,
gonna play the hits. We're gonna do Down for Yours, AZ Side, and Lost in Love. And he's like, oh, he got mad at me, and I turned around to walk away, and there was people around us. There's the people, you know, saw that we were having a
yeah.
little bit of, and I felt him do something behind my back, and I turned around, and he was like this. He threw the middle
Oh,
finger at me,
wow.
and I looked at him and I said, "You're done," and that was it. He was cut from there. He was cut from
Wow.
there, and so That's what happened with Sly. So by the time we started Invasion, we were down to three: Magic,
Mm,
Dos, and Ziggy. No more
mm.
dancers, no more DJ, and
Yeah.
and then my kids, even though they started out as part of the NB Riders, my son and my nephew, I said we're just going to do an M1 and D Dog album. So if you had the original Invasion CD, that
Mhm.
had a promo at the end with two songs that were teasing that M1 and D Dog were coming with
Oh,
their
wow.
album with their album Desert Storm, but it never came out.
Oh, wow. Mm.
hmm just because I did all the work, and there was just a lot on my plate, and just never got around to writing
Mm.
songs for kids, and even though the songs that we
Yeah.
do have they're good. We had three songs with M1 and D Dog, and I've never even put them on the platforms.
Oh, wow. Hmm. So how did you end up eventually just going solo? You just ended things
Okay,
after.
so John was happy with the result of Invasion, and he asked me for another album. So we
Okay.
had already done two Nasty Boy Klick albums, one with Mercury, and then
Hmm.
Glass Note, and then one with Upstairs Records, and then we did Invasion, the first NB Riders album, and he asked for one more album because he said your contract is for four albums, so
Hmm.
we owed him another one, and and I was like, man, I guess we'll get to work on this next album. And that's when I wrote the biggest songs ever. I wrote Pretty Girl, So Fly, Notice Me. I mean, all those songs,
Yeah.
Forever. Those are all on the mbriders.com album.
Yeah. I believe I have that album still.
And so NBWriters.com came out in 2004, and that was the last NB project.
Mm.
Because again, we were just going back and forth and fighting, and I loved the group so much, and it was doing so well. I felt we would be a piece of the culture that I wanted to keep it together. But those guys, they just wanted to keep like beating me up for money, and because I took my 50 and I said, listen, I'll take 40. That way I can give you guys 30 and 30. So they were taking 60% of my money and I would keep 40. Even though I was doing like, the way I see it is like, imagine if I worked 80 hours on it and you worked 10. That's not equal.
Yeah.
It's just
Because
like
you
going
were
to
also
work.
you were editing, you were doing everything
Everything.
out, everything. Mhm.
Everything. The ideas were mine, the songs were mine. And I did try a couple of more homey type records or like battle rap, but none of them got any attention. I
Yeah.
mean, some of them were good, like Mexicanos, Southwest Riders, but the fans know us for the love songs, because
Yeah.
that's always been my core.
So you actually did try to compromise with them as well.
I did, and I actually was ready. I was ready to give them equal money as well. I was like, all right, we'll just do 33%. That's fine. We can do that. And then I told Doss, I go, but this time you're gonna sign a piece of paper.
Hmm.
And the reason we didn't go forward with that, I remember our last show was in Bakersfield, California. And Dos is the one that said to me, Daniel, he said, I'm not signing shit.
Oh,
And I'm
wow.
like, well, you give me no choice. You don't want to sign my paper to give you equal share of everything. Uh, so I went home and I wrote an email and I sent him an email that said, I'm sorry, but I have to dismiss you from my group. I have to
Hmm.
leave you. Good luck with everything. Thank you. But from here on out, you're no longer part of NB Riders.
Hmm.
And as soon as I hit send on that email, probably 4 minutes after that, I got a call from Ziggy, the other guy. He's like, "Yo,
Yeah, the
Magic,
member.
yeah, what the fuck is this? You kicking out Dos out of the group?" And I was like, "Listen, Zig, you guys are putting me in a tough position. I'm trying to make
Yeah.
it work." But he told me he wasn't signing shit. I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna go back to being solo. And I need you guys to know this. Once I leave, I'm not coming back. I mean, it's like I already had given everybody, the label, Sly, Ziggy, I had given everybody enough chances already.
Yeah.
And it's just too many headaches.
Yeah.
It was too many headaches. And so I was like, it is what it is. Like, sorry, can't do it. It's over. And I had this song that we had started as NB Writers called "Sexy Lady." I took
Mhm.
them off of it. Well, Ziggy was the only one that had dropped the verse. I took him off of it, and I did the second verse, and it became my first single for Magic City, my
Oh,
next
okay.
phase.
Yes. Yes. Does it interfere at all? Because knowing that they still perform some of those songs, and do you still perform them?
You know, they really they you know when you give somebody a chance, it's like they bite the hand that feeds you. You know.
Mhm.
Now keep in mind, when Magic City came out, it was 2006.
Mhm.
15 years has passed, and I'd always told him, if you want to use the name, just go as Dos from NB Riders, go as Zig from NB Riders. Because me as the owner and creator, I never used the name without you guys. It's not fair to the fans, you
Yeah.
know? And someone along the way told them, you guys should go copyright the name and keep the name. And
Mm.
so they did. They did that, and they stole my name.
Mm.
And so that's why I'm really like, it's more hurt, and like, why can't a man create his own stuff, not steal someone else's? That's what I feel. But they
Yeah.
feel like, nah, we did this shit together. Come on, guys, you did
Yeah.
10% of it. And so it does infuriate me that they're using the brand that I created, because it has a
Mhm.
lot of value. I created that brand. John Lopez kept his word that he wouldn't take it from me, but I
Mhm.
never counted on these guys
Yeah.
stealing my brand. And so, yeah, it does piss me off. And they sing Lost in Love. None of them are on Lost in Love. They lip
No.
sync
Yeah.
all my other songs, all my verses. And I mean, it is what it is. Um, but I think when the time comes for me to really take them to court and take everything back, I'll do it. But I really don't want to now, because number one, Dos is my compadre. I was the best man at his wedding. I baptized his
Mhm.
son that died. I helped Ziggy when he got married. I mean,
Yeah.
I did a
Your
lot for these
family.
guys. And so I really don't want to take what they're doing, but they're also stabbing me in the back and singing my songs in the process.
Yeah. It's
But
hard.
without the name, they wouldn't get booked.
Yeah.
It's between a rock and a hard spot, you know.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
and so I focus on positive. Give them more MC Magic. Give them more J Rocks. Give them some more Mamacita So Fly.
Mhm.
Give them more of Girl I Love You More Than Anything. I've done enough as MC Magic that those songs, that I did as Nasty Boy Klick and NB
Mhm.
Riders, you know, they're extra. They're extra because now I have four MC Magic albums and four NB Riders, or with Nasty Boy Klick NB Riders.
I'm glad that you focus on the positive. I know you said you had to edit. You did a lot of the work. How did you learn how to do the work?
Trial and error. Hands on. I remember I bought a Mackie console, and that little Mackie console that I bought, that was the one that all my early records came off of that one. And then as we progressed, I would buy more equipment, because my investment has always been in the studio equipment so that we keep bringing the art.
Yeah.
And when I got a good paycheck, I bought a Pro Tools system, and then I hired someone to teach me how to use Pro Tools, because that was the industry standard. And just little by little, I've never stopped working. I mean, I'm in my studio right now. Uh,
Yeah.
so it's always been about the music and that kind of stuff. And so investing in yourself is the best investment you can make. You, baby, drives me crazy. Something about that pretty girl, Nikki Nicole.
Awesome. That's what I was going to ask you. I was actually going to get into that. The voice box. How did that come about?
Okay, the very first time I did voice box was when we dropped Invasion. And the very first song was the one with Angelina, that we can run away and spend some
Mhm.
time. And this is the first talk box that I ever did. I would give my life to you. You mean the world to me. Right? That
Yes.
was the very first time I ever learned to play talk box. But I had it for a year before that. Rewind a little bit earlier. Um, Roger Troutman, may he rest in peace. He did the talk box on our song "Down for Yours."
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, nasty boy,
Yes.
click. That was Roger Troutman. And when he died, I felt like, whoa, Roger's gone. We can't feature him no more, ever.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, maybe I should learn how to play the talk box myself. It was a wild thought.
Mm-hmm.
And then plus he died, but I wanted my sound to be similar to his. And
Mm-hmm.
so instead of going to buy a talk box at the record store, I called his family. I called his brothers, Lester and Terry, and I asked them if they would make me a talk box like the one Roger had.
Oh, wow.
And Lester gave me a price, and he told me to find this keyboard called the DX100 on eBay and send it to him. So I did. I got a money order, and I bought that keyboard on eBay, and I put it all together and sent it to Lester, and he programmed my keyboard with the same settings that Roger used.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, and then he sent me the driver and an amp, and when I plugged everything in, I sounded horrible. I was like, man, I'm never gonna get this.
But you
So
just make it sound so smooth.
yeah, no, I've gotten good at it, but it's because of practice. It's because
Yeah.
being dedicated to it. And so now, like, it's funny that you say that because Zap, which no longer has Roger, he died, you know?
Yeah.
So Zap, I performed with them this past weekend on the boat. I was on the old school cruise, and
Yes.
they did their set, and they come in to watch me. And some of the younger members who really weren't part of the group when Roger was there,
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to him, and he's like, Magic, man, he goes, it's like you took what Roger was doing and you made it like romantic. It's amazing what you, he says, and that's his team giving me my props,
That's awesome.
and
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
I could have never done it if Terry and Lester didn't actually give me the talk box. And
Yeah,
so I
that's
give them
amazing.
love, and then and Lester says, "Oh, Magic, shut, you did it. You know what you did." And so it's really a lot of love between those guys and me. But it was a blessing because man, now I lost count of how many Talkbox songs I have now, and it became my signature.
So, did you have a mentor at all when you were doing all this?
Uh, I mean, if I could give anybody credit as a mentor, it would be Roger Troutman because his music inspired me, and then when I got to work with him in the studio, the way he treated us, like humans. I was
Mm-hmm.
blown away because I expected someone that famous to be a little bit stuck up, which most famous people are.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to deal with. The thing is, when you become famous, we develop these egos, and these egos become more important than the human in us. And I've always tried to avoid being the ego person and more the human.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially in this society right now, because of social media and it's gotten like that. Everyone needs that validation now, and it's hard.
Yeah, yeah, but one of the things that I tell my wife all the time is like, God sees everything, and He's really the
Amen.
ultimate. He's the ultimate decision maker. He sends the blessings, and even when humans let you down, God is the most important, not the humans that let you down. Even the
That's
Bible
true.
says, "Trust no man. Put your trust in me."
Amen. I was going to ask you about J-Rocks, but my dad actually has a Christian oldies online radio station, and he plays a song called "Father, Father" with MC Boulevard and you, and he loves it.
Hmm.
He told me to tell you he plays that.
That's awesome. Thanks to your dad. Shout out to your father, and also to the Father in the sky.
Amen.
Um,
Amen.
I
It's a
think
really nice
around
song.
Yeah, I thank you. I think around 2008 or 9, around there, MC Boulevard's record company reached out to me and they wanted to hire me to produce a song for MC Boulevard. And I
Mm.
was like, well, send him over to Phoenix. We'll get in the studio. And Father was what I came up with. It really wasn't exactly what he asked for, but
Mhm.
he loved it when I showed it to him. And then we got to recording it in a couple hours. It was done, and then when I released my album, Magic City Part Two, I asked him and his label, is it okay to put the song on my album too? And yeah, put it on. And so it's become both of our record, and it's just a beautiful record about
Nice.
giving God the glory, and it's amazing. I've done more spiritual songs. I have this one called Savior with my man Third Day to Mouthpiece, and then on my new album I have one called The Cross,
Okay. I don't
and
know that.
that's really one of my favorites. So I think you're gonna love The Cross as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. So, J Rocks, how did you notice her?
I was on live on Instagram, and I was, accepting fans. We'd go live that asked me a few
Yeah.
questions. Mostly what fans asked me when they went live with them is, can you give a shout out to my brother, or can you play this song, or
Yeah.
to my, whatever it was. But J Rocks, as soon as I accepted her, she goes, "Oh my God, can I sing for you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let me hear you sing."
Yeah.
And so she sang Sin Ti. She said, "Ya no
Hmm.
quiero llorar, no quiero sufrir." And so I thought, I was like, wow, that's nice. And then I asked her, "What else do you have?" She goes, "You want me to sing to you again?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, let's see what else you got." Because she's definitely a pretty girl, and I thought, well, if she's really got talent, maybe there's something there. Because
Yeah.
I'm always looking for the perfect situation. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people that have artistic possibilities, but not as much talent. And then there's other people that have a lot of talent, but they just don't have the it factor to be an artist.
Yes.
It's a weird combination. And when I met J Rocks, even on live, I felt, man, she looks like an artist to me, you know?
Hmm.
Uh, and so she went and she goes, "Let me grab my guitar." And when I was like, "You play the guitar too? That's amazing." So she went and grabbed the guitar, and she said, "Me and my dad been working on this song. It's kind of like your style, right?" And so she sang, mi amor, se comió mi corazón. And I was like, "I love it." I go, "We should do a song together." And she went crazy. She's like, "No
I
way, are
bet.
you crazy?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so I talked to her mom and her dad, and they had already been trying to get a hold of me through my manager, Big
Oh.
D. But Big D, he gets so many calls, it's hard to tell which ones are serious, which ones are good leads, which ones
Yes.
actually, it's because he gets so many.
Yeah.
Poor Big D, his filter is,
I
he gets
know.
a,
We've been back and
yeah.
forth emailing about this podcast for a minute. I'm sure.
Yeah, and so really they got around Big D because I met J Rocks on live, and then I was impressed with her. I really liked her, and I was like, man, she's beautiful. I think she's a star. And I've always said I need to meet someone. I need to bring someone that can be so much bigger than MC Magic. That could be a
Mm.
next Rihanna, a Lady Gaga,
Hmm.
and that's what the dream that I have for J Rocks is that one day she will be that. And even though she doesn't speak Spanish, she sings it perfectly.
Mm.
All I have to do is guide her and tell it, no, you say it like this, you know. And then when we get together and write, like she did a song with Tornillo not long ago.
Hmm.
And she was like, I don't know what to say. I'm like, yeah, let's get on the phone and write it. So we wrote it together when she was on the way to LA to record with him.
Mm.
You know, and so yeah, she's a sweet girl, and I think that one day we're gonna have a breakthrough with her, and it'll open up the floodgates because she's done so many good songs now. That Agua y
Mm.
el Fuego is an amazing song, and
Definitely.
most of her first album we recorded it all in her living room.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
brought my portable studio and we just did it.
Wow. Also, too, what I like about her is she's a lot like you in the sense where y'all really connect with the fans. I mean, her following is crazy, but I
Yeah,
noticed she does connect with them. I mean, obviously, I'm older, but I see a lot of the young cats, like, messaging
yeah.
her, and she's commenting back, and she's just engaging, and she's really putting that groundwork down, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's smart, but and she when I give her compliments, she says, "Well, I learned from the best." She's such
Aw,
a sweetheart. Yeah,
that's
she's
cute.
giving me that compliment, which makes me feel good, and I feel great about it because I've been able to take someone and pour all my resources that I learned over all these 20 years and just give them to her. All her merch game, all
Mm,
her website, jrocks.com, all that stuff. I taught her how to do it so that she could be a self-sufficient and successful young artist. She was able to connect with what is it called, FB County,
Yes.
and they together did the collab, and she dropped all the tracksuits. They sold out the day they put them on sale. They sold out.
Yes.
And so she's working on new merchandise, and her and I together have a new piece of merchandise that we're dropping later this year as well. It's going to be a collaboration between her and me, and we're just excited about that. It's a real special project, a merch drop.
Yeah, and you even have makeup. That's
I
awesome.
do. I do. Yeah, in 2020 when the pandemic shut down all the concerts, I decided I was inspired by this girl named Rosie who has Lucky Lashes, and she named her Valentine's palette, she named
Mhm.
it Lost in Love. And I was like,
Mm.
"Yo, that's amazing." And then so I asked her, I go, I'd like to be partners with you. Can we la 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 la? I mean, it's using
Yeah,
my
yeah.
title, my Lost in Love. So we became co-owners of the Lost in Love palette. We own it 50-50.
Oh,
And
wow.
then and then she told me, she says, any other things I create though, they're just mine. We're just owners of the. I go, oh, that's fine because I'm going to create other stuff too. And
Yeah,
so then that's when I started doing Sexy Lady, Mamacita, So Fly, and I got All My Life coming, and we got some other ones coming as well.
that's
And so
awesome.
and I love the makeup line. It's just so beautiful. You know what? I think reason I love makeup is because, in my opinion, makeup makes girls feel better about themselves.
True, very true.
And my songs have done the same thing for females. And so it
Yes,
makes sense. It makes them feel
definitely.
pretty and loved and beautiful and special. It makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure your wife probably inspires you in a lot of ways, right?
My wife is inspiration for everything. My wife is amazing, but crazy enough, my wife don't wear makeup.
Really?
She's one of those that just, she might do a little bit of mascara for her lashes if someone's getting married, if we're going to a wedding, but like every
Yeah.
day,
No.
nah. No, yeah,
Mm.
like hardly anything. She has her skin routine at night to try to keep her
Yeah,
skin soft and stuff. But yeah, she doesn't wear makeup, but she does help me with the palettes and stuff. She's like,
that's
give me
awesome.
her input. But yeah, I mean, I'm a control freak, so a lot of times people give me advice, and I'm like, thank you, but no thanks.
So, how have you handled adversity? How many years already since you've been in the music
I
industry?
mean, let's say 95. That's 29 years ago. That's when my first album dropped. So that's been 30 years. Let's give it 30
Oh,
years. It's
wow. Yeah,
crazy, you know?
definitely.
Um, but I also have to say this, Nikki, is I feel as excited about new music today as I did in 1995.
That's awesome.
And so music to me is a little piece of life. It gives me joy, it gives me excitement, it makes me look forward to, and that's one of the reasons why I keep the negative stuff out and ignore the BS, this and that, is because MC Magic is about good music and moving forward and continuing to do what I love, you know?
What advice would you have given the young MC Magic? I ask everybody this.
You know, there's a few things that I wish I would have done differently,
Mm-hmm.
but I know if I did them differently, I wouldn't be where I am today. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say go back and change the future. You can't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a real and God put me through all the fires to make me stronger. You know,
Mm-hmm.
God put me through the challenges so I could learn from 'em and learn what not to do next time. You know,
Definitely.
and so one thing I wish I would have done is I would have kept ownership of all my masters that I've done.
Mm.
You know, everything from NB Ridaz back, I don't own those masters, and those masters generate a lot of money for
Yeah.
somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and they never pay royalties, they never pay percentage, they just don't. So I own all the masters from MC Magic this way,
Mm.
and but I've been able to build the same size catalog as I gave away, which I've given a lot away. I've made other people rich, sent their kids through college, bought their kids cars and houses and all that with the songs that I gave away. But also Upstairs Records invested a lot into promoting the group, in San Antonio and Dallas and
Mm-hmm.
Boise, Idaho, and everywhere, so that we had a brand that we can lean on, that I could lean on, and
Yeah.
so So you kind of, you win some and you lose some. And at the end of the day, I'm still here and I'm still making music and.
So, what does the future hold for MC Magic?
Mm, I live in the moment. I live in the moment. I'm very optimistic. Um, I just recorded a song with Coyote from Los Angeles called
Mhm.
Pocho. Are you familiar with what a pocho is?
No.
A pocho is when Mexicans come over from the other side and you try to talk Spanish with them, but you're American Mexican, not Mexico Mexican,
Yes.
and they call you pinche pocho, like you're a fake Mexican.
Yeah.
And so Mexico Mexicans have always called us from this side pocho because we're like not good enough to be real Mexicans, you
Well,
know?
there's a lot of Spanglish too.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Puerto Ricans. People from Puerto Rico don't consider New Yorkers. That's why they call them New Yorkers. They're
Yeah.
not Puerto Ricans.
Mm.
And so there's always that. And so we did a song called I explained that to you so you know what Pocho is. If you look up the
Hmm.
song, it is so phenomenal. These rappers from LA, young kids, are called Coyote, and they invited me to be part of Pocho, and I did a little talk box outro that is just so beautiful. It's phenomenal. I'm excited about that. I just recorded a corrido with one of the most popular corrido producers, and it's MC Magic, Baby Bash, and Little Rob. He just sent me the final mix of Kick It, the corrido version, because we
Hmm.
made a regular version and a corrido. Baby Bash and Little Rob have not heard their corrido that they did with me yet because it's something that we cooked up in the studio afterwards. So we have that. That's going to be on Warner because we're letting that record be released by a Cricket because he's like a superstar DJ, kind of like DJ Khaled. He's a
Yeah.
he's a signed producer. So I have that
Awesome.
coming. I have a song coming with Michael Salgado. You're in San Antonio. I'm sure you know who Michael Salgado
Of
is.
course. Of course. Definitely. That's
I have
awesome.
yeah, and I have a whole album ready to go, which I don't know when I'm gonna drop it. Probably before June. I don't know. I'm trying to make sure it's perfect, but I've got a song called No More. It's similar to Lies. That's called I Can't Forgive You No More for everything you've done to me.
Mm.
Really a good song that my core fans are going to connect with. And then there's another one that's called Nobody Knows, another love song that's amazing. And I've been doing more upbeat songs too. I have 3 songs that I recorded with that Mexican OT from Texas.
Really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I know we
Nice.
we we, we don't seem like the combination,
Yeah.
but but
That's
we have
awesome.
we have 3 amazing. He was on live the other day, and he saw that I joined his live. He said, "Magic, we got 2 bangers together, and you don't want to do nothing with it." Uh, for his stuff, because he signed with Interscope, I need to make sure I have the right paperwork before I release it,
Okay.
so that they don't shut me down after I release it. There's just so much.
Mm.
There's so much red tape and everything, you
Yeah.
know. We'll probably come back because I love the Aztec Theater. It's a good place to have a concert.
Yes, we have tons of fans here. But thank you so much for taking this time. I know I've kept you for about an hour already. So, but thank you for taking this time for telling us about what you got going on and about everything, your life. Man, it's been an amazing journey for you. And you know what? God's going to continue to bless you with much more success. I feel it.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Nikki, and God bless you, beautiful.